Michigan gets the job done in blowout fashion in their final road game of the regular season. And now all eyes will be on Ann Arbor, Michigan, Ohio State 2025. And it means a lot for the maize and blue. Yeah, just what you wanted, and you didn't know if you were going to get there after Michigan lost to USC, but they have, in fact, run the table to put themselves in position for a 10-2 regular season. And if they're able to do that, their chances of getting to the college football playoff, I would say they're not half bad. I know those arguments now. As we get into this week, there was already a lot of that last week, but I'll be paying, I think, like a lot of other people, a lot closer attention to Heather Dinich and everybody that wants to maneuver around the college football playoff talk and who's in and who's out. And, you know, Michigan, if they're going to need some help here or there, but being able to get the job done next week, that's what it's going to be all about, as you know, for starters. And I say this, if Michigan beats Ohio State for the fifth time in a row, they will have had a great season. And, you know, I'm not talking about wanting them to get left out of the college football playoff. Absolutely not. But it has been a great season, even if somehow they do get left on the outside looking in. So that's it. We have something to be upset about for real. But, you know, Michigan, you have to hand it to Bryson Cusdahl, a walk-on. I didn't know. They said it during the broadcast that he was not offered a D1 scholarship, and here he is, comes into Michigan, finds himself as a starter, 20 carries, 100 yards, and 3 touchdowns for Cusdahl. I mean, Cuz getting it done. You give him the game ball. That was an awesome performance from someone that nobody was, you might not even, if you didn't watch the spring game, you might not even know who he was a week ago. Kind of like I didn't know who Tomas O'Mara was until just about a half hour ago. You know, from Ann Arbor, he got in late and was running the ball for Michigan. Now, Michigan wins this one 45-20. It started out, you know, the Terps drove the field and were able to score a touchdown. Big plays. They get a 4th and goal. They punch it in 7-0, and then they go for an onside kick. And Joe Taylor, the special teams ace for the Wolverines, showing why he's the special teams ace. He recovers the ball. He's getting hit. It was I'd say a great cover by Taylor on that onside kick. And, you know, that gave Michigan the great field position, and they were able to take it the 47 yards and get a Marsh. Marsh had another good game. An Andrew Marsh touchdown from Bryce Underwood. Bryce Underwood wasn't half bad. Now, when you think about it, my wife's asking me, spiral cut ham or lasagna? I have to go with the ham. There you go. She went with the ham. All right, where was I? Oh, you're talking about the the first 2 series of the game. I mean, it was a pretty big deal for this game, and it could have been, if you didn't watch this one could have been different. The Terps, you know, Michigan on their second drive. Now, this is a 7-7 game. Underwood almost throws a pick 6. You know, he's running around and he side shoots this, kind of a little, I don't know, it had flair, but a little bit too much. You know, I'd say, I think, was he getting too cute? I mean, this is what he does. You know, he's flipping it out there very easily because it was a dropped pick 6. And then, you know, Michigan continues on though, and on a third down, Underwood's going to get sacked, and yet he does the same kind of thing he's able to strong arm it and flip the ball out to the sure-handed receiver, Max Bredesen, who ends up collecting it and getting a first down for Michigan. The Wolverines go down and get a Kuzdal touchdown run, 14-7. And so you had the best and worst right there with Underwood. Damn it, why are you throwing a ball like that? And you're just like, oh, look at the the arm talent, being able to swing that one out there. And these are just the first 3 drives of the game where you had it going. But, Michigan, they did not score. They got it down, to the 1 on their final drive. In between before that, I guess they had 8 possessions, 6 touchdowns, a missed field goal by Zavada, and then a made field goal, a 46-yarder by Zavada. That has to make you feel, if you're Zavada, better than you would be heading into this week if you just had that miss on your record heading into the game against OSU. Not been a great year for Zavada, but I thought Jake Butt said it right. Sometimes when you're a basketball player and you're cold, it's just, they say, hey, go get a layup, and you just see the ball go through. Seeing it go through the uprights is a big deal. There's a lot of times people use the golf analogy. I mean, last year, Zavada was up on the tee and everything was right down the fairway. This year, he's off, and then you start making corrections, you overcorrect and all of that. Mental game and everything. And I think we all agree with that, what I just said there. So mentally, being able to get that one like he was able to in the fourth quarter, I would say is a pretty big deal. So, as much as I say it could have been a different game, Maryland had the first drive, the onside kick, they dropped a pick 6. They also, their receivers dropped a few. And then Washington had his receiver in the end zone a foot or two. They probably should have caught the ball anyways. That could have been a score. They had to settle for a field goal. There was another one in the third quarter where he had at least 2 or 3 steps, I think on Jair Hill, the receiver did, and they weren't able to, make that play. That could have been 6. I think they left about 21 points out there, but if you add it up, 21, 24, 34, and they couldn't stop Michigan. So even if they would have had all of those, I think they could have ended up maybe with 34 points, but you have to stop the other team, and they just could not stop Michigan with no punts, 6 touchdowns, and then the made field goal and missed field goal. So that's the long and short of this one right now. But there are a couple injuries that are noteworthy in this one. Max Bredesen. And I did listen to Sharon Moore. I know a lot of people saying, he's thumbs up and if anybody can play Bredesen, I get all that. But Sharon on the field afterwards said it didn't look too good. So they're going to have to give an MRI. That didn't sound very encouraging from Sharon Moore. And also Jasper Parker, who did get a touchdown. He was working in with as the second back in this game and had a nice touchdown run in the second half. Actually, the first drive of the fourth quarter. Nice touchdown run for Parker. And then I think the next series, or maybe it was even on that touchdown run, I don't know if it was a shoulder. For some reason, I'm rubbing my shoulder. I'm fine. He went into the medical tent, came out with no pads on, and walked to the locker room. So as we sit here right now, your guess is as good as mine about his availability for next week. But if I had to guess, no Bredesen, and so Jalen Hoffman, who like Kuzdal, looked really good in the spring game. And now, here they are maybe factoring in. Obviously, Kuzdal factored in big time. Hoffman had to come in the second half for Bredesen. And, he may be the H-back, fullback, probably will be, as we sit here at broadcast time talking about Michigan against OSU. So the injuries, the key one, Jordan Marshall, who did travel, did dress. He was going through pregame workouts. There were people in the stadium that were taking videos of the workouts, and Marshall was catching punts, and that got people pretty fired up. You're going to need Jordan Marshall next week catching punts. Don't have him in the game, as a punt returner. Meanwhile, Andrew Marsh was the punt returner, and he had a gigantic return. He looks natural. Remember, he fumbled a kickoff. Was that the first game of the year? It was in the non-conference slate, and Samaj Morgan did not make this trip. That's another thing that we have to at least add here. And you are coming off last week's game against Northwestern, where he fumbled the ball. He was able to get it back, but the referee, for whatever reason, she thought that she saw, was pretty definitive about it, that she saw a Northwestern player get it, even though Samaj popped up there and had the ball. And, he was taken off finally off of punt return. I would say that, he was crying to get pulled off in the non-conference slate. I've been over that over and over again. I would just say Sharon Moore's lucky that it didn't cost him a game, because it looked like at some point it was going to, and that point was last week, and it didn't. But, Samaj, you could say the writing's on the wall. You could say whatever you want. I mean, he didn't make the trip, and he wasn't with the team here. So, you can add it up. Also, conspicuous by his absence was Ernest Hausman, Michigan's starting middle linebacker. And Hausman this week, I didn't read, he put a long post on. I saw one of them on, I think that originally I saw it on Facebook, and then I don't always read things, especially about Michigan football. It seems the stories that are just completely fabricated and just on Facebook. But then that came, it actually was a real one. That they had him, he put out a long type story on Twitter, and the gist of it, if I'd paraphrase without saying that I didn't read it, that that he may feel like he's got a calling to help out his homeland, and that could be why it would be at this very moment. Maybe he said it in there, finishing up your career, could you do more with being able to make money in the NFL and use the money? I mean, there's a lot of different things there. We're gonna have to see on all that and see where he's at. Let's see where he's at mentally and see if he's coming back or not. I don't know. I mean, those are the kind of social media things. That's me just giving I'm not saying he's off or he's on. I'm just saying what I saw there. I mean, you can see the details, and then you can make your own conclusion. I'm just going to wait and see, and maybe maybe Sharon Moore. I don't know exactly what his status is, but it's up in the air. I'll say that when it comes down to Hausman. So that's everything in this game. The guys that are from the certainly Baltimore area, St. Francis High School, that would be what? Jayshon Barham and Derek Moore. I think both of those guys had sacks in this game. Also, Trey Williams, who's from that DMV area, proud to be going back home, and saw him chugging towards the sideline, trying to make a tackle in the first half. It's hard, when you're a defensive tackle and you're a run stuffer, I'm supposed to look at his statistics, but also shout out to Big Trey for heading back home and getting the victory. So, Cusdahl, Marsh, Underwood, the Michigan offensive line, they do the job, obviously, in the run game. and that's what there is going to be a big part of it, not exclusively like last year. I think that Bryce Underwood's going to need more than what Michigan had last year in their passing game. I mean, that's a pretty easy thing to say. But, last year's one of those things that if I'm thinking about Michigan against Ohio State and having watched Ohio State, you'd say Ohio State is going to tear Michigan up. They've got a very good defense. Their offense, passing offense, and the running game, the combination there, they should thrash Michigan. But Michigan is at home. Michigan has won 4 times in this series, and it is affected, just like it affects Michigan when Ohio State's beating them all the time. It does play mind games with the team and the fans and the coaches, and it's something that's real. Now, you'd say, I'm putting all that to aside. Sayin is also a redshirt freshman. He hasn't faced any adversity. He's playing for the first time in this rivalry on the road. That could be something. And then 2 other things is that Ryan Day, he folds up, tightens up. He's got a lot of John Cooper in him when it comes to Michigan. He might, try to say, I'm a real tough guy, so I'm going to run the ball. I'm going to try to do something because, people say, Lou Holtz said I'm a sissy. I don't know. I mean, we've seen it. In different times over these last 4 years, he's looked really conservative. I would say ultra conservative, where if I was on the other side, I'd say, what is he doing? Why is Blackbeard acting like this? Well, he acts differently, like John Cooper. So Michigan has that going for him. And I think another thing that Michigan has going for him is that Matty Patty, the defensive coordinator for OSU, he has also not faced adversity, and he will turtle up. And his team, when you're looking in the biggest games for your leader, Patricia is not a leader of men. The players that play for him hate him. I could easily see that turning and that working against him, where that little pencil on the side of his face and that beard when he's got that laminated Denny's thing and it doesn't work and he's doing it all for show, or maybe that lead, I don't know, gets into his head or something, and you take that pencil and you snap it over his head, and next thing you know, he's looking over at Day and Day's looking at him. I could see that. But yeah, on the surface, it looks like Michigan would get beat. But all of those factors, you think that Michigan is in, we say, a puncher's chance. They're in with a chance because it's Michigan, Ohio State, and it's a great rivalry, and Michigan is in their heads. And they're at home. And Day, and Patricia, and Sayin. All of those things. And Michigan's coming off is the most complete game. I think Sharon said that in the postgame. He was trying to get us the most complete game, probably with the offense where they, scored every time except the last drive. I would say also that Michigan has not played their best game of the year. This would be a great time this particular week to play their best game. So all of that adds up with a puncher's chance, a Michigan's chance against Ohio State. So that's where I'm at. I'll take some of your feedback and see where you are at as a Michigan fan. Bimba is talking about Sharon Moore's time management and game management is very poor. I would say that everybody would agree with you on that. We've seen it. We saw it last week and we saw it today. We've seen it at other times. Oh, yeah. Congratulations goes out to Bo Lytle, who was talking about Cuz going for 100 yards and slicing through the Terps defense. And he was, instead of Bo Lytle, we'll start calling him the Great Kresgen because he had nailed that. He said Cuzdahl came through, like I said. The greatest stage in all of sports is set. Michigan has an elite run game, and we are going buck hunting. For a second, I have to take a step back. This was going to really make my week. Michigan and Maryland. If Michigan would have come out on the wrong side of this game today, I would have to say that I would have tried not to. I mean, you have to. I'm glad I don't have to reach down and try superficial things here, but so they win. And what it does is all of these things you get the holiday week. You've got the Lions playing twice in a few days, both the Pistons and Red Wings. You've got Michigan sports, the women's basketball team. I knew when I had two different texts by people that I didn't even know watch women's basketball, texting me early this morning, like, wow, did you see it? Somebody else was like, who's this Sword? Hey, when you play UConn and you take them down to the wire, you're going to get people to notice. The hockey team's doing great. It's a great time to be a sports fan. It's a really good time to be a Michigan fan. Very enjoyable week running up to obviously Saturday at noon, which is the big game and the great stage, all that other stuff. All the other stuff is just going to happen this week. And, you can just sit back and say, yeah, this is great. Make your deviled eggs and, get that turkey and have a great week. Have some fun. If you can't have fun this week, then you just like not having fun. And some people, hey, to each their own. Some people don't like having fun. I like fun. This week, fun. And I'll thank Michigan. I'll thank Bryson Cusdahl. He's a big reason why. V Savvy says Cusdahl was an absolute bright spot today. Some things to clean up for sure, but this was about as good of a performance as we've seen all year. And it comes at the right time. Now let's beat Ohio. Vikent. After Sharon was seemingly trying to play up Bredesen's injury, Bryce immediately said he's fine. Dynasty Lions 25 says you have a voice for a funeral session. Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. If anything, I yell and scream too much, and I should just level it out. And I should take it slower. So I like people to leave their feedback. And sometimes, and I don't mind you being critical of me, being critical of Michigan, whatever. But this is stupid. Realistic said, Moore said after the game, it's not good, and they will pray for him. Yeah, like I said, with Bredesen, there's really nothing else to go over. We'll just find out. They'll have an MRI, and he said that they, didn't look good. So, right, they're going to pray for him. Yeah, it didn't sound great to me. Great play calling this game, A-Train says. Ran a tight balance attack until late in the game. Yeah, well, look, when it works and you're scoring touchdowns, you say they're great play calling. I sit on the Mason Blue Review. They do we do a game thread, and early on, there were a few complaints about Chip Lindsey's fallen in love with the pass. I would have to say you're right about it. It worked, A-Train. But I would say it was the touchdown from Donovan McCulley. So this was Michigan's first drive of the second quarter. It's a one-score game. It's 14-7. So Michigan has a 3rd and 9. And Jake Butt was complimentary of the play selection, dialed up the right play at the right time, threw it to McCulley, who went in for a 22-yard touchdown. Michigan goes up 21-7, never looked back. A 3rd and 9 screen short of the sticks. So to me, if that doesn't work, every Michigan fan is saying that's a dumb call. Why are you throwing it short of the sticks? Why are you throwing these screens? All these screens that they've thrown a lot this year, and people have complained about. It just goes to show you when it works, you're doing a great job, and when it doesn't, people come out with their knives. I didn't really like that play call. I like throwing the ball when it's 3rd down and 9. I like throwing the ball to the first down marker. Now, I realize that the defense understands this, and they are scheming it up where they are not allowing that. And what they are allowing are shorter passes. And then if you can get the blocks, some of this, the stuff that's pretty obvious. But I'm not going to argue against things that work. I'm just saying that I've been around the block enough where when that one doesn't work, people would have been bitching left and right about it. And I would have as well. I didn't like the play call, but it worked great. It was a 22-yard touchdown, broke a tackle, but perfectly dialed up. So, yeah, let's pat him on the back for the play calling and everything else. But the way Maryland was going, I think maybe I could have been there on the sideline dialing some stuff up. Jamie, how much of a factor could snow be for the game? I hear snow is likely in Ann Arbor. Well, in 2021, I was down at the Michigan golf course, and they were calling for snow that day. And as I was done, I think you get done about an hour before the game, maybe a little bit later than that. But as I stepped out of the tent over on the golf course, this big snowflake started coming down. And I looked around, and all the Michigan fans were like, this is exactly what we need. And it played a part in Michigan winning that game. The quarterback from Ohio State was, afterwards saying I don't think he said he was cold, but I think he said he was sick. He's, blowing his nose over there. And the whole thing about Ohio State being a finesse team and Michigan being a tough team in 2021 with the snow, it was a factor with everything. Everything that the narrative about Ohio State seemed to be true. They were finesse. They didn't like the cold. Stroud was a wimpy. He's from California, and he didn't like the cold. He's good down there with the Texans with those cowboy boots now. And, it even played out over the next 3 years after that snow game because Michigan fans were loving it. They're like, we are tough. We beat you in the trenches. We beat you in the run game. We punch you in the mouth. You've got all these great wide receivers that go on to the NFL. And yet when push comes to shove and the game gets cold and the game is won down where the whips and chains are in the trenches, you fold up because you're not as tough as Michigan. And it even played a factor in last year's game where Day, stupidly, kept running into the teeth of the Michigan defense. That's how it looked. And so, yeah, I would say that hoping for snow, forget Christmas Eve. Let's hope it snows November the 29th. Let me just see what my forecast says. I was actually looking and then I didn't get to. My long-range forecast calls for 32 degrees with a 40% chance of snow. Now, it doesn't really mean 40%. Maybe you'd have to get somebody that likes to, that's always been weird about the weather. I look at it, and to me, it says 40% chance of snow. I'm thinking there's a 40% chance of snow, but it's not really when you talk to weather people, it's like, well, that's not exactly what it means. It's like, well, why do you even put it down then? Give me a percentage. But on Sunday, there's a 60% chance of snow. So what you're talking about, the possibility of snow or sleet, 40% chance isn't likely, but Sunday, and it being a week off, being a 60% chance, that is likely. So, hey, there is a chance. Dynasty upset with something that I said. Oh, they got the interception, but they didn't get the pick six. Sorry, Dynasty Lion 25. I'm sure the other places that you go for all of the great hardcore Michigan news that you get it accurate, and you'll just sit around and you'll love it. If you're just joining us, you're acting like why I'm being a little harsh with Dynasty Lions 25. Because he was harsh with me. And like I said, I could take it, and we'll see if he's able to. Linda Joe, big Michigan fan, says Jake Butt mentioned a replacement for Bredesen next Saturday, Jalen Hoffman, a 6'3" tight end. Yeah, Jalen Hoffman, there were two stars of the Michigan spring game. One was Bryson Cusdahl, who had 100 yards in the spring game. And when I was watching the spring game and I saw him running around the corner the one time, I was like, man, Jordan Marshall looks pretty good. And then it was 24, not 23. They were playing for the maize and the blue team. I think it was the maize team. No, I think it was the blue team. So I was like, Cusdahl reminds me a lot of Jordan Marshall. And then he really had a good game. He looked good running the ball, ran with authority, ran like he did today. He would have been the number one star of the game if it wasn't for the fullback / tight end H-back Jalen Hoffman, who maybe Dynasty Lions will correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought he had over 100 yards receiving and had double-digit targets and like 8 catches in that game, including on the final play when Dynasty Lion, what's his name? Underwood, threw him a pass, and he took it the distance for a touchdown. So you saw his speed, you saw his hands. He was playing with Underwood, and he was the star of the Michigan spring game 25. Am I drunk? Not yet, Dynasty Lions 25. What's your excuse? Your mom take those drinks away from you? Your boyfriend grab them from you? I don't know what's going on. DL? Bring it on. Let's go. Do you believe Moore is treading water going into the next game? By treading water, do I think he's like in trouble of being replaced at Michigan? No. Now, if you hang out online, and I'm not calling people idiots because I myself, if you went back and watched last week's show, you saw me hollering and screaming about him having Samaj Morgan back there and some of his lack of the timeout, or him calling the timeout. Sorry, Dynasty Lions 25. I misspoke there. Him calling the timeout, him not challenging a play in the first half. And, this is something that we've seen from him. He had some instances, the Oregon game last year, not calling a timeout, effectively Dan Lanning stealing a possession from him and winning the game right there. The following week, he didn't call a timeout, like 20, 30 seconds running off the clock against Indiana. Those are all really bad moves. So, but he's first-year head coach. You're thinking, hey, he can get better at that. So he's not been great there. But I always look at it, what I would do. And with the team that Michigan has, in particular at quarterback, but now you go to the wide receivers, the running backs, you look at that offensive line. Why in the world? You're treading water. This team has put themselves, at worst, they're going to be 9-3. Which, if we can just take a step back for a second, if that's the worst case scenario, that's actually not so bad. So, and so treading water if they would have lost the game today and, they get blown out, it'd be a real sour ending to the season. But even if that was the case, because of everything that they have going for them, I would still bring Sharon Moore back. So absolutely not. I don't think he's treading water. I think he's got some work to do. I asked this year, it was when some people's hero Biff, had won those games, and they were like, let's have Biff be the head coach. Well, Biff completely kicked the end of the Nebraska at the end of the first half when they threw the Hail Mary by not calling a timeout and forcing them to punt. I asked Sharon if he had somebody up on the booth dedicated to game management, timeouts, and a clear line of communication with him. And he said yes, that they do have somebody. Whoever that is, Sharon Moore needs to get that person and say, you need to do a better job. Because whatever you're telling me, I'm end up not making the right call. Now, ultimately, that head coach, it's one of those things. You got to get better at it. You can practice a lot. Maybe you should be playing. People, I say, get somebody that plays video games because they're really good at it. Maybe you should play some video games. Maybe whoever is up in the booth should play video games. Maybe they need to work on the line of communication from the guy upstairs to Sharon on when to call the timeouts, when to challenge, and what to do when it comes to those type of situations. That's what's going on. That Underwood back foot throw is a pick six. Oh, yeah. The receivers having 2-3 steps and the balls going off their fingertips. Those are all touchdowns next week. Bunch of touchdowns, bunch of picks. If it's Ohio State, right? If we're watching just you're getting your. If you've watched everything with Ohio State, then you watch Michigan, and then you put them out on the field, and you play it out in your mind. You say Michigan's going to get beat, but then you think about all those other things that I talked about, which I'll reset at the end. Dynasty Lions thinks I should just go ahead and stop it now, have a redo tomorrow. Has it been that bad? I tripped up once and you want me to end it? That's not. I don't know. I know you're not trying to be nice, but I'm watching football all day tomorrow, so I don't feel like having a redo tomorrow. It's right after the game. There's 1,000 people right now watching Dynasty Lions 25, and a lot of them are getting a kick out of you. You and your new age Lions logo with the ultra mane and the mean eye. I mean, that's an up-to-date one. I don't know what you expect. Let me just read off the box score to you. You have a lot of fun that way. It's a one-man show. We get the producers over here. Grievous, the producer. I don't even know where he's at. Sleeping. He should have helped me out on that one. Harvey. I like Harvey. I've never met Harvey. Harvey doesn't show up for every show, but he shows up a lot on the post games. I usually like what he has to say. Harvey this time says we need to tighten up the secondary. Yeah, Harvey watches the show via Facebook, which not a lot of people do. And so I think that he's the top Facebook viewer. Harvey says we need to tighten up the secondary, not understanding why we keep getting beat in the middle of the field. Well, I don't know either. Wink at times, it feels like he's very predictable. I'm not saying that he is. It feels like he's very predictable. He blitzes too much, and then he gets beat. And the other teams know when he's going to bring pressure, and so they wait, and so they're able to find people in the middle of the field. That's a very it's a very fan thing of me to say, but I believe that's what the fans think, and they say it so much that at times I think that's true. Now the other team knows Wink's tendencies, but overall I think Wink's done a pretty good job. And remember, last year Wink put together one of the greatest masterpieces, not just for the Michigan defense, but any defensive coordinator ever against OSU. And he uses Day's tendencies, or he suckered Day in, whatever Ryan Day thought he was going to do, where Jeremiah Smith was, had 3 catches against Michigan last year. Ibuka had 4. And then OSU ran for 77 yards last year against Michigan, but they tried. So I don't know. And then, Michigan, I would say they ran all over OSU last year, 172 yards. And they beat them 13-10. So, yeah, I think it's Wink, but I think Wink's all right. Do we kick next week with Zavada? 38 field goal straight down the middle shows he's messed up. 38 field goal straight down the middle. Well, the 46-yarder in the fourth quarter, when you talk about, no, they're going to go with Zavada. Going with a backup kicker. Do we even know who the backup kicker is for Michigan? Is it Stuart Blake? You know who he is? I don't think, he's on my list as a kicker. They brought a punter kicker in, Hunter Robertson. Just go for it every time. I think what it comes down to is that Zavada's got the leg, and it's a mental thing, but he ends on a positive note. So I feel as good with Zavada lining up to kick a 55-yarder as I do with him kicking a 35-yarder. He's got the leg. It's an accuracy thing. He's a big hitter. It's like he's however you want to do it in sports. He's a big cleanup hitter that swings and misses a lot, a little bit like Riley Green of the Tigers. Strikes out way too much, but then he is able to connect. He's like the golfer. DeChambeau swings out of his shoes. He's trying to hit the ball, 400 yards down the fairway. And boy, when he connects and, then he's just hitting the pitching wedge and these par 5s, you think, wow. But no, they're going to be going with Zavada. But let me give you a couple scenarios. 4th and 1, 50-yard field goal, third quarter, tie game. Am I going for it, or am I kicking the field goal with Zavada? I think I'm going to go for it. Would I take a 50-yard field goal right now for the win, like for Northwestern last week, but a 50-yarder at Michigan Stadium? Yes, I would take that. Now, would I feel as confident as I did last year when he made all of his field goals, especially the 50? He made all of the 50-plus ones. What, he missed one, I think, extra point. No, he missed one field goal last year at Illinois, but made all the rest. But I would take a 50-yarder right now. The holder, according to Vi Kent, messed him up. Yeah, there's no reason for me to climb into Zavada's head. And people saying he has issues. Yes, it is a mental thing. Blake says he's hearing Ernest Hausman retired from football. Like I said, he may have stepped away right at the end of the season to a higher calling. What else can we say about that? What's up, beard in blue? He's got a beard and he likes the blue. Go blue. He says our offense is beat up. Losing Mad Max hurts, especially the week before Ohio. It does. Give you this chance as Rip comes in and says, hey, folks, subscribe to the Maize and Blue review today to increase the chances of the Wolverines beating the Buckeyes. Hashtag go blue. A-Train, O-line, pass protection looked a lot better, or Maryland's defensive front isn't that great with pressure. Then again, Michigan was in shotgun almost the entire game. Yeah. So, I've addressed Samaj and Houseman earlier. So that's it. Michigan go blue 1, 2, 3 has added it looks like a fancy password when they're making your passwords. I have that on a few things where they're like, hey, do you just want us to make up your password? And then I'm like, sure. And then I go back and look at it. And I'm like, wow. You talk about password security. Z21GD, and then there'll be like 10 more characters that, uppercase, lower, $sign. I'm like, nobody's getting that one. All right. He says sometimes it looks like Malik Washington is about to laugh before he snaps the ball, like he just made a joke. Malik Washington has a promising future. He can really throw it. And man, he was close to doing a lot of really nice things and keeping this game where he was going to get in a shootout with Underwood. And one thing I did not know was that what Jake Butt said, Jake Butt challenged Michigan fans to go listen to an interview with Malik Washington. But the point was made. Sometimes I hear somebody interviewed and I say, man, this guy really gets it. Or, you hear somebody talk and you say, that's the kind of person I like listening to and I root for. Sounds like that's what Jake Butt thought of Washington. I think he said that he could be the president. Who else did he say could be the president? Somebody else. He said Grant Newsom. If he wasn't going to be a Michigan football coach, could have been a president. All right. Smash the numbers is not giving up any. He wants no excuses. Next man up, beat Ohio. Win the line of scrimmage. Beat Patricia, the worst NFL coach in the history of the galaxy. LJ is saying that he thinks both Fox and ESPN Game Day will be in Ann Arbor next Saturday for their pregame shows. I think that's happened before. I could easily see that happening again. If Martindale goes man-to-man with Jair Hill, we will get destroyed. There might have been a little cat and mouse going on. Hey, let's leave our guys in an island and get to Ohio State. And maybe thinking, man, and then what I liked, and Butt pointed it out, I think it was on a 4th down. Might have been a 3rd down. When I probably wrote it down. Let's see if I can find it. It was when Maryland was trying to score and they put somebody in motion and Jimmy Rolder went with them. Well, novices like me and a lot of you, that's going to tell the quarterback, the freshman Malik Washington, that Michigan's in man coverage. And he took the snap and went over there, and Butt was like, no, they weren't. They were in a zone. So even though they sent somebody in motion indicating it was man, and then they went to zone, and in Washington, that could have been when Barham sacked him. So it was a nice call by Wink. Maybe Wink, whatever Wink was showing out there, it could be a ruse for OSU. D line and quarterback pressure is what I'm eyeing as problematic for next week. Michigan's D line? I think Michigan's D line, it must be talking about OSU's D line and their ability to pressure the quarterback. Yes, nothing is more troublesome for a quarterback that wants to pass than a defensive line putting pressure on him. Don says it was a strong performance today. He can't ask for much more, except a fewer injuries. Rip is saying Houseman is fine. He's chilling. He had a microdose, was more like a macro. Okay. Having a little fun with Houseman. I think both with Houseman. When it's not injuries, it's not like a disgruntled player. So, things with anybody at any age that you can just want something else. When it's in the middle of a glass bowl where everybody's watching, sure, everybody's going to want to know. So I don't know. With Samaj, there's a part of it with Samaj that I feel really bad for. We'll always have the Samaj Morgan of 2023 where the true freshman out of West Bloomfield had the punt return in the Big Ten championship game. He would get the ball on a screen and sift through the defenses and go in for a touchdown. He would sit down in the championship season, a little curl. J.J. McCarthy would throw it to him. This guy's going to be a star. Samaj Morgan. One of my favorite players, but these last 2 years, and then this year in particular, you see it a lot, and you see it in golf. They call it the yips when you're putting, and you guys just can't do it anymore. It happens a lot in baseball. If you're old enough, there was the first guy I remember was a really good baseball player named Steve Sachs. There was a second baseman named Chuck Knobloch. There was a pitcher named Rick Ankiel. They all had it where their confidence gets completely blown. You would hit a ground ball to Chuck Knobloch, and he's at second base. All of us could take the ball, and even if we never played baseball, I guess you can't, be a complete, unathletic, but, just throw the ball over the first baseman. Knobloch would throw it into the stands. Sachs couldn't do it either. Ankiel was a pitcher, and he was throwing like it was Bull Durham. He was throwing it into the screen. He was hitting he looked like he was 50 Cent, throwing the ceremonial first pitch. Just, they ended up putting him in the outfield. It worked out. I believe that's what was going on with Samaj Morgan. He was crying for help. He didn't want to be back there on punt returns. I saw it in the first game when he was turning this way and he was turning that way, and then he dropped one, and then he muffed it. And then every game there was something. Ball's laying in the middle. Everybody knows. You stay away from that ball like it's a live grenade. He was diving on it. But there's no reason for me to, I've given my opinion on Sharon Moore and JB Brown for leaving him out there. That's the coach's fault, not the player's fault. And, in the end, it did not end up costing him a game. We all thought it was going to. Moore's lucky it didn't. Hope Lou Holtz speaks up again this week. Yeah, I wouldn't mind a little Lou Holtz on Ryan Day. That would be nice. Buckeyes seem to run the ball more than usual and use their backup quarterback as if they're practicing for the game. Yeah, let's do it. Let's see it. Let's go. Don likes the optimism and realism. Couple shots at Patricia, who uses a pencil on the sideline. Just think about what he's writing on that needs a pencil. He's not. He's a prop. I mean, he's got a laminated sheet. He even did it with the Lions. He's a big dummy. He's a fraud. And it wasn't just because he was a terrible coach. It was Glover Quinn who told the story. And it was also Big Time Slay. I think the both of them, they were sitting over there, and Patricia started calling him out, like calling him whatever, like, hey, you pricks or whatever. Like, what? Talking down to him, acting like he was Bill Belichick or something. And these guys were like, what the hell is this guy? You have to know I'm not a head coach, but I see enough of them, and you can't go out there and just act like you're Nick Saban. I mean, that was a look into Matt Patricia's soul. That guy, the players have no respect for him. And sure enough, things are just going great for OSU. But they go into this game and, oh, dang, tighten up like this Lions guy that's on here that's crying. You telling me Michigan State lost to that game? Lost that game? That's going to be a real that's going to be a real barn burner at Ford Field next week. Can't wait for that one. Get your tickets now. Michigan State at Maryland. What's going on there? Man. Let's see here where we're at. Oregon beat USC. Did they beat them by more than 10.5? I needed a late score there from USC. I think that's what you wanted if you're a Michigan fan. Now you want Washington to beat Oregon next week. Isn't that how it goes? I don't like. I'm polling for Georgia Tech here tonight. Yes, I think this particular feedback is one that everyone could send in and would say yes. It says the following from Ramsey. Hopefully Jordan Marshall is able to play. Was Cuz good or was the run blocking better? I think a combination, but I would say overall it was the run blocking. But I don't want to take anything away from Cuzdahl. 20 carries, 100 yards. I mean, he looked really good. He ran hard. He looked like Jordan Marshall to me. Now, Maryland had the 102nd run defense in the country. I had to check Jake Butt, who said the 103rd, but if you look, they're actually tied for 102nd. But hey, who cares? Our man Lions 25 or whatever probably cares. Yep, we've already talked about what Sharon had to say out on the field after the game. John says, we are beating them. No doubt in my mind, we are going to win the rushing battle and get the big plays from Underwood to Marsh when we need them. Underwood against Ohio State. Now, Underwood overall has not been as good. I don't want to make it sound, but he hasn't been as spectacular this season. I was expecting everything. And even I know he's a freshman. I know he's 18. You don't have to remind me of any of that. But I get all the way here. And Underwood against OSU. He's looked very much like a freshman at times. At the end of the half, when the clock's running down, Sharon should have called a timeout. Also, he needs to get it going. Let's go. Let the clock run down. But it would be just like a great player, a prodigy, to have his best game of the year against OSU. That's another factor. Let's write that one down for the ending, for the send-off. Underwood. Didn't he tell LeBron James when he met him? I'm going to beat Ohio State. Was those his word? Were those the words? Watch out, Ohio State. I'm beating Ohio State, something like that. I beat them 3 times in a row. I'm beating them this year. You didn't say that. Hey, what's up, King? OSU's going down again this year. Something, a little something like that. I'm in. Chip called a good game. Here's the old Pep Hamilton. It was a Pep Hamilton revenge game. Don is saying the Buckeyes coughed it up a few times. Harvey saying that 3rd and 9 that I was talking about could have been 4 down territory. Well, if it had been tackled right where he threw him the ball, it would have been, 4th and 4. I don't know if that's 4 down territory. I mean, 4 down territory, you're thinking, 4th and 1. I mean, if you get that, sure. 4th and 2 or anything more, the dicier the numbers look, the longer it is from 4th and 1. I think that's obvious that people know. I don't know. A-Train is saying 3 fumbles for the Buckeyes. My one guy is gone. Dynasty Lions 25 is reading another podcast by responding to this one. Yeah, I think his mom probably caught down. I was like, okay, that's enough. Once I took the big shot at him, he didn't like it. Watching another one, Mr. Martini. Yeah, we're. What did I say, Mr. Martini? I said I'm laying the points in this one. Now, hey, look, it was 13.5, and I picked Michigan to win by 14. So, and I didn't bet it myself, so I'm not over here. I'm not over here telling you to take my handicapping prowess or, hey, I got one right. But I do like everybody else out there. When I get one right, I'll mention it. I don't. Gotta just put that to the side. That's it. Thomas. Like the Zavada late kick. That's right. It was pretty good. No picks. Would I pick Zavada to kick a 50-yarder right now if it's snowing? Yes, I would take a 50-yarder to win the game. It's 25-24, OSU, 1 second on the clock, 50-yard field goal. I'm taking it. I would take that. The Ernest is status is up in the air. People want the definitive if he quit the team or whatever else. Go read his posts. It's all over the internet and what he had to say. He put his full name out there, and I know he has a love for his home country and the troubles that are there. I mean, who knows what's going on in the young man's mind? I wish him the best. Yes, Hausman was an excellent player for Michigan. He had the green dot. He called the defenses. The captain of the Michigan defense calling the plays. So yeah, that's a big deal. But what do we want? What are you going to do? Got to remember. I mean, these even though these guys are getting paid, even though there's a lot of people that would give up their internet privileges for their life if they could play football for Michigan. But it's it's also these guys are, what's Houseman, 20 years old? Blank name says Jake Butt said Jair Hill is Michigan's best cover corner. That is a fireable statement. Well, Jake Butt says that. Wink Martindale says that. Wink Martindale said that all year long. And Sharon Moore has said that. Oh, look, Zeke Berry on that. Was it the first series of the game? Second, he went out there, threw a bomb to him. He was under the island. He played it perfectly. Shug, not so much. But Michigan coaches, pound for pound, they think that Jair Hill is their best cover corner. So that is not a fireable statement unless you want to fire Moore, Martindale, and Lamar Morgan. They all say it. And, he got a little bit lucky that there's some drop passes and everything else, but it happens. Fair enough from Don. In golf, they call it the yips. In football, they call it the drops. We had 23 Tails making a point. I'd like to see what he has to say. He's talking Houseman. He is at the house, man. Glad Samaj wasn't there today. Specifically, Moore would have been itching to put him at running back. Yeah, and look, Marsh returning kicks, returning punts, go-to wide receiver. Alabama doesn't treat Ryan Williams for drop passes or Jalen Milroe. I've been done going at some. I don't know exactly what all that meant. Look, he should have never been put in the position after the non-conference schedule to be on punt returns. To me, that's on the head coach. So I say good luck to him. The writing's on the wall. You'd say he's done at Michigan. Maybe he's taking a week off. I don't even know if you can do that. I would expect him to be suited up next week, but I don't know. Who knows? I don't. But I hope it works out for him. Michigan fans are valid on critical thinking, but bashing our own is old. Every team you play at Michigan, you're going to the big time, and everything is magnified. These guys know that people are going to be critical of them when they don't perform. And so it's the big time. That's why, if Samaj Morgan, I'm not saying again, I wish Samaj Morgan, I don't even know all the details. I know he didn't dress or he didn't travel with the team. Could be done. But, go play at, go play Division II or something. Go play at Ferris State. Return punts there. Drop a couple. You're going to get a couple people that are in the stands and be like, hey, isn't that the guy that drops the balls at Michigan? Whatever. It happens. Oh, hi, no stink crack eyes. Mm-mm. Yeah, well, people were on Donovan last year. Look, on the coaches, on the players. That's it. Ann Arbor will be amped up next week. The defense will have to win this game. Well, I would say that's their best out of the three phases, the defense. So, yeah, I think they'll need a great game from the defense. I think special teams will be huge. Punting, punt return, all of that, coverage teams, hidden yardage, turnovers, all big. Let's build up to a big send-off here. Rip taking the bubble bath and watching. Yeah, I don't know. You don't have to. We don't have to tell everything that we're doing here tonight. I'm going to watch some football. Marsh is the next gadget guy. That's all. That seems negative, but I mean, Marsh looks like he's a great wide receiver. They don't have to run end arounds to him. They don't have to use him as a gadget guy. I would say that Marsh is the next. I would take gadget out of this sentence, RGS, if I could edit it. And I would say Marsh is the next guy. That's all. And by guy, I would say go-to guy. I would say the sky's the limit. You could have Underwood and Marsh for the next 2 years. Andrew Marsh could be an All-American next year. Andrew Marsh could be a first-round pick in a couple of years. I mean, that's how good he's looked. Returning punts, returning kicks, catching touchdowns, going for over 100 yards. I mean, he has just been shot out of a cannon. He's got the cool hair. I mean, he's got everything going. He's very smooth. He glides. And when they're great, you give a lot of credit to Underwood. But Marsh just goes out there when they throw him the ball. Sometimes he's covered and he comes up with great catches. But a lot of times he must run great routes. When these guys can really shake you, and then when he's just sitting there wide open, when you know the other team's like, we have to deal with number 4. They're going to number 4 all the time. We have to, and then he's wide open. That says to me that he is got great route running ability. And then he's got sticky hands and very smooth. You just watch him. He glides. It has been mentioned that at times he looks like Anthony Carter. The blue cheese in my nose. Okay. Michigan has too many go-to guys. That's next up this season. And last season just showed us I wasn't limiting him. Okay. Oh, you're just saying if there's a trick play, they want to get it to Marsh. Well, if we're sitting around saying, let's see how many ways we can get the ball to Marsh, let's be creative because he's a playmaker and he can take it the distance every time. So, yeah, let's get him on a reverse. Let's throw him a screen. Let's, throw him a bomb. Let's get him in the middle. Yeah, get the ball in your playmaker's hands. Let's go to those first pages. No, I am not nervous. I feel great. My emphasis really, we'll see what happens on game day. It's going to be a different animal. I'm going to come up with my game plan for game day. But this whole week being a holiday week, a short week, there's so many games on. And I love games. And it's just, I am emphasizing having a great week and enjoying it as the run up to Saturday. Now, Saturday morning, who knows what's going to happen? Things are different on game day. Well, Michigan wins this one 45-20. A little bit hairy at the beginning, but Maryland has no defense. And credit to Michigan offense and Bryce Underwood and Andrew Marsh, and then the Michigan offensive line. The game ball, the Maize and Blue Reviews game ball is going to Bryson Cusdahl, 20 carries, 100 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Great job by Cusdahl. We'll see what's up with Max Bredesen, Samaj Morgan, and Ernest Hausman. Nice job in returning to the East Coast, in particular the Baltimore area, the DMV area for Trey Williams, and the 2 sack masters, Derek Moore and Jay Sean Barham. Now, it is time to look towards Saturday. And if you play out the schedules and you've watched these two teams play and you've got some PFF formula, you've got your own formula, you look at whoever you like the most and how they look at the game, you formulate it in your mind. I tend to do things like, what was that the chess series where the young lady, I loved it. It was great. It was a great series, but she would lie back in her bed and she would play the chessboard out on her ceiling, the different moves. That's what I do with the two deeps and how I play this game out. And when I look at it, I see Ohio State tearing up Michigan. But then I start factoring in what I know about this series. And I know Michigan's at home. That's a big deal, Michigan being at home. Michigan will have a great crowd. Michigan has won this game 4 times in a row. Last year, they had no business. They had no quarterback. Ohio State ended up being the national champs, and Michigan beat them. Emeka Egbuka, Jeremiah Smith, non-factors. Smith had the 35 yards, and 15 of those came on an offensive pass interference where he ended up scoring that touchdown. That was a joke. Ohio State barely got to double figures last year. So Michigan with Wink and the confidence and the defense should feel pretty good about that. But when you win 4 in a row in this series, you spook the other team. The fans are scared. And they'll be drunk all week long, acting a fool. But what will happen, and very important for Michigan to bring it in the first quarter, when the adversity hits for Ohio State, they've been just steamrolling everybody. Oh, we're this is the greatest team. It reminds me a little bit of 69. Greatest team ever. Impenetrable. Can't run on them. Best run defense, all of this. You just have a little bit of success. And what happens? These guys all start looking around. They don't know what this is. Here we go again. They can't handle the winged helmet, the maize and blue, and the fans, they'll be the first one to curl up in the fetal position because they know it's coming. Oh, yeah, I hope it snows. I'll take that. But when things get hairy in a big game like this, they look over to their coaches. They're going to see that guy in their dyed black beard over there, Mr. Tough Guy. And in this particular series, he's a lot like the fans. I know he says so much pressure. The pressure just gets to him. Hey, it's a real pressure cooker. Doesn't matter how many wins he has, how much money he has. This game gets him. This is John Cooper of the 21st century. He tightens up. And what happens when, you know, the definition of a choke, you do things that you wouldn't normally do in situations like playing Michigan. He chokes. We have seen it for a couple years in a row. And then he hires one of the biggest charades for a coach and a leader in Matt Patricia. I guarantee that he will crack Patricia even before Blackbeard. So Michigan's got that going. Those two guys, when the tough gets going, they will choke. Not leader of men, Matt Patricia. Blackbeard chokes. He already has in this series. And then Marsh, Underwood. You heard Jake Butt. Jake Butt was getting in his feelings a little bit. This is the game. Legends are made and all that. When I heard all of that, I thought of Marsh. But you know who I thought of the most? Marshall, an Ohio kid. Jordan Marshall, Cincinnati kid, goes to Michigan. Running against the number one rush defense in the country. Where have I seen this before? Last year. The year before. The year before that. And the year before that. Where the offensive line, 95, paving the way for, when I remember going to the game in 95, people were scared. Ooh, Ricky Dudley, this Ohio State team, Orlando Pace, he's the greatest left. Michigan will be lucky to be within 3 scores. And the offensive line kicked their ass up front. Biaka Matuka would go for 20, 5, 15, 30, another 5. Yeah, it was a great thing to watch. An offensive line bulldoze the way for Biaka Matuka to go for over 300 yards. But it was only a couple of years ago where Blake Corum, biggest Michigan heart, you couldn't ask for any. You look it up in the dictionary. There he is, Corum. Out. He went in for a carry, but maybe it was a Willis Reed moment. But, they needed a backup running back. And the Don, with one arm, his arm was busted up. The one-arm bandit ripped off a 75-yarder, ripped off an 85-yarder. Haskins. How many touchdowns did Haskins score in 21? 5? So Marshall could do it. That's something on Michigan's side. The Ohioan against Ohio State. I like that. Which gets us to Underwood, who the season, I'm sure for Underwood, look, 9-2 going into this game. He's got the movie cameras following him around and everything. I've been down a couple of these news conferences and I've looked around, and a few times there are these dudes that come in here and you can see the artillery. They've got these cameras, and the guy that's next to me is like, that's a $30,000 camera. I'm like, that's pretty, I was like, okay. They're making a movie. And in the year that Robert Redford passed away, The Natural, it was pretty predictable. He got the Wonder Boy out. He stood up there, Hobbs, and he swung for the fences and he put it into the light stands, knocked it out. Fireworks. It was predictable and it was still great. Well, Michigan's natural is Bryce Underwood, and he's been through some adversity here. But I would not put it past Underwood to outplay his opposite number in saying, being at home, and fulfilling the prophecy of what he had to say to the king, LeBron James, back in the summer when he met him. And I don't even remember exactly what he said, but it was something like, I'm going to beat Ohio State, King. And that would be, as things go for Underwood, kind of predictable. A great one. Ascending to the throne when it really, you didn't necessarily see it. And even when You might have been, as a diehard Michigan fan, a little bit down on Underwood. This is not the chosen one. But he's got his shot here. I'm not going to put it past him. Underwood, Marshall, the Michigan offensive line. That sounds a lot like, if you take Underwood out, the recipe from the last 4 years. Martindale has to feel good about whatever his game plan is going to be. And so should that entire Michigan defensive staff. Because he put together one of the great defenses, game plans ever last year. And they're at home. And they're in their heads. And their coaching staff, even though they won a championship, they're fraudulent. So I give Michigan a puncher's chance. And if it's snowing, maybe I'll break out some, what's that guy's name? Burl Ives, something like that. Have a holly jolly. It'll be there. We'll be singing in Ann Arbor. If you want to continue the revelry, the fun, do it over on the Maize and Blue Review. That's where we're going to be all 24 hours straight, all day, all night this week. Having a grand old time. Enjoying the week. Looking forward to the ball game on Saturday at noon. Some other things to do in between. But, the game. That's what we'll be looking forward to. Thanks so much for everyone for sending in their feedbacks. And thanks to my man from the Lions. Good luck to the Lions tomorrow. I'm sorry for not giving you the exact rundown of what was going on there. But I hope you can come back and watch another show and can contribute again. It was all in just fun. And it's going to be a fun week. Take care, and we'll see you over on the Maize and Blue Review. Good night.
And what will your legacy be, do you think?
A couple Heismans and at least one Nettie. So.
That'll do it.